Hello everybody, I hope this video finds you well. This is just going to be a quick one. In this video I just wanted to talk a little bit about infrastructure. I noticed that a lot of the other video bloggers and expats who write about China omit some very basic things, and I just want to talk about some of the things that they omit. The first thing is that China is very, very well organized. It really is. And you can see it on how clean the streets are and how well maintained they are. You can also see what the sidewalks are like, and we're just going to talk about the sidewalks. You'll notice there's no graffiti anywhere. You'll notice that it's all disabled friendly. Wheelchair ramps are everywhere. Handicap, blind walking aids are everywhere. This is mandated by the Chinese government, about 15-20 years ago. It's implemented throughout the United States, implemented throughout China, just like the United States tried to do. And you will find that China is very, very handicap friendly. You'll notice that trees are planted along the sidewalks. This is the norm throughout China. You'll notice also that the trees have the lower parts are all painted white. This is to prevent insect infestation that over the last decade various people, I don't want to point any fingers, but you know who the culprits are in regards to suppressing China now, don't you? Have been importing species that eat plants. And what they do is they take these little insects and they package them alive inside these little plastic vials, these polyethylene, and not polypropylene, they're polyethylene vials that they then put inside of all sorts of things that are imported into China. And whoever receives these then takes these insects out and lets them devastate the trees, the communities, the parks, the farms, and everything. And they found a lot of them. So that's why all the trees are painted white on the bottom. And that's also why there's a 100% sort of all packages going into China. You'll also notice that here in Zhuhai we have the little trees are all propped up with poles. Typhoons come here a couple times a year and they knock everything down, which is why all the buildings down here are made out of stone and concrete, and the trees are propped up with wood, and everything is extra sturdily reinforced. It's because every year there's a massive weather condition that causes great disruption. If you look around, you will see that there's something that you won't, if you compare it to, say, India or the United States, there's no telephone poles with wires. Nowhere. Not in the sky. It's blue sky. You look at all my pictures, and there's absolutely no telephone poles with wires. That's because everything is underground. It's all underground. And that's because of all sorts of reasons, I suppose. But in China, of course, it's done because people want to see the blue sky. And It's something that they prefer. Now, there are legacy poles. There are legacy power lines that are above ground. They're all being phased out. If you see a few, and they're far and far between, it's probably in an older area or in an area that it's very difficult to place underground. But they're being phased out. All the trees are painted white on the bottom for insect control. This is because customs have found an entire slew of packages filled with insects that are designed to eat up all sorts of vegetables, crops, and trees. A whole bunch of different types and species have been intercepted. That's why China does a 100% sort of everything coming into China, 100%. Now you'll notice here these poles that are holding the trees up. This is because of where I live, the fact that there's typhoons. Typhoons are severe, like very strong hurricanes. And the trees get knocked down. When we had super hurricane, all these trees were destroyed, knocked down. So that's why you have these poles holding up the smaller trees and not on the big trees. See? This is a rideshare bike. You'll notice that it's solar panel powered to control the electronics. It's common in China. There's a lot that you can learn from society just by looking at the streets. You can tell how the city or the local ordinances maintain the streets and care for the people. You can tell how well it's being maintained. When I lived in Erie, Pennsylvania, the big news was that the bad section of town, known as the East Side, was going to have a $4 million makeover on the one main street there. And sure enough, the local people worked together and got a grant from the state to take care of a 6-block stretch of a 40-block long road. And they tore up the old concrete, laid down new concrete, and put some handicap ramps in there, and cleaned up some of the trash. I went back later on, 5 years later, after I got out from the ADC in Arkansas, and it was all graffiti ridden, filled with trash and crumbling. Why? Because there was no money allocated for ongoing maintenance. Nobody was there to maintain it. It wasn't profitable. That's the disposable culture that exists in the United States. You take, you use, you discard. That's not sustainable. In China, you take, you keep, you reuse. Constantly improving, constantly improving, constantly. That's the way the world is going, guys. Those that like to take, use, and discard, those days are ending. and it's painful for you who are not ready to deal with it. Tell you what, I want to take a moment, just a moment, to talk about Chinese sidewalks. All sidewalks have this. This is for people who are blind. And all sidewalks have this. It's the bicycle superhighway. Most sidewalks are tree-lined. Under the trees are designated bicycle parking areas. You can tell that it's a bicycle parking area by the illustration of a bicycle. You don't need to understand Chinese. Crosswalks are always well marked. China's a big nation, and there's all areas that are some better areas are better than others. Certainly in the more prosperous, huge cities, and by all means they're certainly huge by American standards. The sidewalks and the roads are well maintained. This is true for all cities, but when you start going into the rural areas and the industrial areas, those are works in progress. I used to live in Tangsha, and that's in Dongguan, for those of you who don't know. And Dongguan is an industrial area that is northwest of Shenzhen. And there were areas that were very distressed. Looked like America almost. I felt very at home with the cracked and broken sidewalks, the tilting poles, and the 100-year-old phone lines dangling and hanging. Those are all being destroyed and cleared away. Last year, I happened to drive through Tangsha on my way to a factory to check things out, and I noticed that all the disturbing refuge, the disgusting streets, the sidewalks have all been replaced, repaired. And when they make it in China, they put parks too, okay? It's not just a sidewalk. It's a sidewalk, then you have a little park area. Then it's a sidewalk, then another park area. They do this, Outside there, we also passed a couple of tree farms. There's privately owned tree farms, of course, but a lot of them are state tree farms or local tree farms, where, of course, the local government plants trees and grows them for when the typhoon comes and takes out good trees. They just take a tree from there and plop it down. Tree farms. Planning for continuity. It's a good thing, I think. But of course, that's just me. Here I am praising China, Why don't you say something good about the United States? Why do you always have to praise China? As I get this kind of comment often. You seem to have turned into a commie. Well, I hope you love your lack of freedom. Lack of freedom? Lack of freedom? What are you talking about, freedom? An American talking about freedom is like a dog talking about what it's like to breathe underwater as a fish. Americans don't know shit about freedom. They know nothing. Zero. Zilch. End of story. There hasn't been freedom in the United States for 200 years. Just a lot of talk. Talk, 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 talk. How's that First Amendment going, guys? You know that there is now a director of information, disinformation control, modeled after the same thing that's set up to control guns. You know, the Second Amendment stuff. You know, the ATF, as well as the FDA, which controls Ninth Amendment rights. Everything's got some kind of alphabet agency that makes sure that you don't step out of line. American freedom. You don't have it, but you pretend that you do. That's fact, Jack. But those are just my opinions. You might be relishing in all your delicious, yummy freedoms. Tell me about it. Last election that you voted for, did any of the things you wanted to happen come true? What about the time before then? And the time before that? And the time before that? Did any of the things that you wanted to have change? Did they change? Did they? Did they? And this coming election, are anything going to change? Are they? Are they? Are they? I'll bet you anything that they won't. My wife knows that I wanted some orange juice. So she, as is our wont, we just get on the internet, and there was a good deal. Turned out to be orange soda. And packaged with the orange soda is this Pepsi. Can you make it out? Can you make it out? Pepsi? It's Pepsi, see? It says right here, Pepsi. Pepsi. Oh, here it is. Can you see it right there? Pepsi Cola? Yeah, it's Pepsi Cola. I'm drinking this stuff. Ugh. Too sweet for my taste. I tell you what. Too sweet. Don't really care about it, but gotta drink it. It's too nice to throw out. I drink soda roughly about once every 4 months, maybe once every 8 months. Very rare. I prefer alcohol myself. Water, coffee, tea. But anyway, so I'm drinking some of this stuff. Man, it's sweet. Oh, God, I gotta tell you. Lordy. Lessons of life, don't you know? Anyways, let's go back to China. So all the streets have trees on it. They're tree-lined. Many of them are fruit-bearing or nut-bearing trees, but not all of them. Many are flower-bearing trees, especially in Zhuhai. So the air is aromatic. It smells lovely, like Florida in March. Thick orange blossoms, you know. It's everywhere. At least over here in the Zhuhai area. It's different in other areas. You go up to Wenzhou and you go up to Zhejiang, you go on up there, and it's a totally different way of doing things. They have different kinds of foliage, different kinds of trees, different ways of handling things. For instance, come harvest time, did you know that all the local farmers take their corn and they lie them on the sides of the road for the corn to dry? Yeah, they don't use these big industrial dryers like they do in the United States. They just lay them out to dry in the sun. But what if somebody steals it? Yeah, what if somebody steals some corn? Nobody does, but it's a question often asked of me by visiting foreigners who are looking at factories and stuff. This, but isn't somebody going to steal it? Yeah, they could. What are they going to do with it? It's like all these bicycles. You got bicycles all over the place. In the United States, you ride a bicycle, you park it. If they don't steal it, they'll remove the seat so you can't ride it. Many times I've watched the urban youth walking by with a bike, riding a bicycle and dragging another bicycle with him because he's taken it, or carrying a couple of bicycle seats in his hands. Why? Make money of it? No, just to be assholes. That's what happens when you don't have work. You don't have adult guidance. You don't have systems to control and guide the youth to keep them out of mischief. But that's a subject for another time. Okay, this is a super short video. I made it intentionally super short. Some of my videos are so damn long. I just wanted to show you a little bit about sidewalks in China and the philosophies behind them and how they're different from sidewalks in the United States. I grew up in the United States. I grew up in Bridgeport, Connecticut. We had sidewalks. And then I grew up in East Brady, Pennsylvania, and we had sidewalks in that small town. Today, and since then, I have owned houses in suburbs, and there were no sidewalks because everybody would drive. Beautiful McMansions, and there's no sidewalks and no trees. Trees because you have to rake up leaves and people are too busy working. Trees that provide shade, but nobody really gives a damn because they don't walk outside. They drive. They hop in their car and drive. The world is changing, and one of the things that must change is this idea that you can go from one box to another box to another box to another box and not interact with community, society, or nature. That has to change, and it is changing. That's what happens in China. People interact with each other, and while you may go into a box to go to a box to go to a box, that is not the majority. The vast bulk of the majority of people are outside doing things, interacting, and active, of all ages. I like that. Be part of a community, do your best. And at that, guys, I want to end up with my basic words of advice. Be good. Smile. Make a difference in the world that you live in. Be good to dogs, cats. Be helpful. Be the Rufus. Participate. Don't be a spectator. And when the situation calls, take action. And at that, guys, remember, I believe